Hello, this video focuses on how to use JIRA to build a backlog in JIRA and to start our first sprint in JIRA. So following up on the presentation that we had around introduction to Agile, we looked at this one slide in particular on how to build a backlog. So what we've discussed is that we wanted to list all the outcomes, whether it is tasks or ideas, giving them a value from 1 through 10, and then giving them a cost in terms of the effort. So that could be a small effort, a medium, or a large effort. So the focus for today is to try to bring that backlog into JIRA. So what I have done is I have assumed that your current backlog is in the shape of a Google Sheet or an Excel sheet, and I've put the 5 items that we just saw into an Excel sheet. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring these items into our JIRA backlog. So JIRA's main interface looks like this. I'm going to assume that your IT department has created a new project and that we have brought the users of that project into JIRA as well. On the left-hand side, we can see the main interface with 4 options: the test board, the backlog, the active sprints, and reports. We're going to start with backlog. Now, in the middle of the screen, at the top of the screen, is a create button. What we're going to do is that from that blank backlog, we're going to create our first item. So we're going to hit the create button right there. And we can see at the top that we have our project, which is going to be the name of your project, and it's probably not going to change. You're going to stay there. And then we're going to have 2 types of issues, either task or user story. We're not going to talk about epics today. We're going to leave this as task, and what we want is to enter a summary. So we're going to go back to our backlog. We're going to grab our first item, and we're going to enter our summary right here. We won't talk about components today. You might want to add a little bit more details for the person who is going to execute the task so that they know what they're supposed to do. And then we can give it a priority. So it could be normal, or it could be a major, or critical, or a blocker. We're going to leave it on normal. And we're not going to give it an assignee or a sprint yet. We're just going to click the create button. So we can see how our first product backlog item was created. And from there, we can click on it and it brings up the detail panel. From here, we can do a bunch of things. For example, if we actually made a mistake, we want to click on the triple dot actions button here, and we want to hit delete, and that will just kill it altogether. Otherwise, we can add some detail or information in here. One of the things that is quite handy is the story points. So that is the effort that we've talked about. So going back to our backlog, for the first item, we said that this was a small cost. Now, JIRA doesn't talk in terms of small, medium, and large. What we do instead is we use numbers, and it's called story points. So it's important that we capture that estimate with the team. So we're going to sit down with the team or the person who's actually going to execute that task. And this person is going to tell us, for example, that this is a small cost. Therefore, we're going to give it a 2. Let's say a 2 out of 10, just to keep it simple for now. So here in story points, I'm going to click on this field right here, and I'm going to type 2, and I'm going to validate that 2. Now we can see how this number 2 is now written in that gray little widget on the product backlog item. And it's at the far right hand side here, right next to prod 60. It's important because this is what JIRA will look at when it does the burn down chart. Anyways, enough details for now. Now you can see another thing is that when we talked about the backlog, we talked about a value. Unfortunately, JIRA doesn't have a nice field to enter the value. One thing you can do is that you can add it at the beginning or at the end of your backlog item. So for example, here, if I click on the name, I can give it a bracket 10, which is the value. So what this does is that we can see in this view the value, the name of the task, as well as the estimate, which is a 2. And that's how I usually do it. Now, we're going to go to our next item. Actually, that was an 8, not a 10. I'm sorry. So let's just change that to 10 just to be consistent. We're going to take the second item right there. And we are going to bring that into our product backlog. So same exercise, create. We're going to enter the summary, except this time we realize that this is not really just a task. This one is actually a little bit more complex, a little bit more into the future, and will probably require more than just one person. So what we're going to do is that we're going to turn this into a story. Okay, and usually the way we type a story is, as a user, I want something, so that something. So we capture the user of the user story, the person who benefits from that, as well as what is the outcome and the benefit. Now, scrolling down, we're same thing. We can add more descriptions here. We can change the priority. So let's say if this one is less important, we can flag it as trivial, which we can do with this field. And then we're just going to create this item. So here again, what we can do is just click it, and we're going to enter a story points value. Now, you remember how we said it was a large? The team told us it's a large item. We're therefore going to give it a story points of 8. We're going to validate that. And we also remember that the value was a 6. So I'm going to enter that right at the end of the item, 6. And so on and so forth. We basically just do all these items one after the other. Okay, so we've now created our first 2 backlog items. You could continue and create this for every single one of them, but I think you got the idea. Now, that's the first thing that we did. The second thing is that we're now going to assume that we've created a large number of backlog items, and that we're confident that we can tackle a certain number of them for the first sprint. So we're going to create our first sprint. Now, in the backlog view that I have, you can see how there is a button Create Sprint at the top of the backlog right there. We're going to create a sprint. And what we're going to do with the team is we're going to bring in the tasks that we are confident we can accomplish in the upcoming sprint. So by drag and dropping the item directly into our sprint, this is what we're going to do. Now let's imagine that this is our first sprint and we just want to do this one task. What we're going to then do is to agree with the team who is going to pick up that task. Let's say this is one for Julian. I would then, under the detail panel on the right-hand side, I would click on unassigned, and one of the options that would come up is Julian, and I would just choose myself effectively. You do that with the team for every single task. Now, if you remember going back to this presentation, this was that slide where we define the tasks, we get the team together, we break down each task in order to deliver the backlog item if needed, and then we put them all on the board, and then we meet daily to see where we are. So how that translates into JIRA is this. We have now filled our sprint number 1 with all the tasks, we're going to start the sprint with this blue button. And we're going to give it a name. We're going to call it sprint 1, and we're going to give it a duration. So we choose 2 weeks, for instance. And as sprint goal, we will talk about that later. But all I need to do is to hit the start button, and my sprint has started. So you can see how on the left-hand side, on the main panel, I've moved from backlog to active sprints. Now, this is the view that we're going to use with the team every day. Okay, so let's imagine that it's the beginning of the sprint. We get together with the team, and I am the one who is assigned this particular task. So if I click it, you can see how it is now unassigned, but it would be assigned to me. So what I would do in front of my team is I would tell them, all right, guys, today I'm picking up this task, and I would drag and drop it into in progress. Let's say we go on for another couple of days, and I have now done the work, and I would like someone to review my work. In that case, with the team, I would then put this under review and potentially change the assignee to be the person who is going to review my work. When we're done, I will then bring it all the way across to done. Now, when I am done, what this will do is that you remember the story points being 2. Now, if you look at reports here, and if you choose the report burn down chart, you're going to see this view. And what this view does is that it gives you 2 things. The gray line is called the guideline. It shows you what a nice burn down throughout the 2-week sprint looks like, and you want to try to stay close to that gray line. The red line is the actual remaining values. So in our case, it went straight from 2 to 0. Why did it do that? Is because in the same day, which is today, I have taken a task and brought it from to do all the way to done, which obviously doesn't happen. What will happen in real life is that after a couple of days or so, it would go down to it would go down and then go down further. Now, the reality is when we do a real sprint, we wouldn't just have 2 points. We would have, let's say, 20, right? Across 10 different tasks. What this allows you to see is how after 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, your burn down goes from 20 to 18 to 16 to 12, depending on the tasks that the team gets done. All right, so just like that, what we've looked at today as a quick introduction is how to create a backlog, how to go about understanding the current sprint, and how to take a quick look at the reports. I'm going to leave it at that for today, keep it really simple, and then what would be good is if you could take your backlog in its current shape, transfer it into JIRA, into a backlog, try to assign it story points, and if possible, assign it a value for each one of those items. And then we can take a look together. Okay, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.